Hello and welcome to Airheads, a not-so-serious look at the serious business of royal rumours, gossip and gowns. I'm Tom.
And I'm Maeve.
And it looks like the Sussexes have found financial freedom.
This week we heard in the New York Times that Prince Harry and Meghan Markle have started a yet-to-be-named production company and signed a multi-year deal with Netflix.
If they don't call their production company On the Air, I don't know what's wrong with them.
I mean, I do question Harry and Meghan's naming choices in general between Archewell, Poola, the dog,
like
or
Poola.
even Archie, I'm not so sure about. But, you know, we'll reserve judgment until we hear the actual name of the thing. According to the New York Times, they will make documentaries, docuseries, feature films, scripted shows, and children's programming. And Harry and Meghan may even appear on camera, but only in the documentaries. Meghan has no plans to return to acting, as we said previously.
They put out a statement that says, "Our lives, both independent of each other and as a couple, have allowed us to understand the power of the human spirit, of courage, resilience, and the need for connection. Through our work with diverse communities and their environments, to shining a light on people and causes around the world, our focus will be on creating content that informs but also gives hope. As new parents, making inspirational family programming is also important to us, as is powerful storytelling through a truthful and relatable lens. We are pleased to work with Ted and the team at Netflix, whose unprecedented reach will help us share impactful content that unlocks action."
Just call me Ted. That's Ted Sarandos, the chief executive of Netflix, who also put out a statement, and he said, "We're incredibly proud they have chosen Netflix as their creative home and are excited about telling stories with them that can help build resilience and increase understanding for audiences everywhere." I've got to say, these two statements together are not making me very excited for this programming.
Yeah, I mean, resilience doesn't exactly get your blood pumping.
Would it have killed them to talk about wanting to make entertaining
Yeah.
programs as well? Like, I was looking back on when the Obamas announced their Netflix deal. They put out a statement saying that their projects would entertain as well as educate, connect, and inspire us all. So I feel like they could have maybe made it sound like a little bit more fun instead of very, very worthy and dull. But, you know, we haven't seen what any of it is yet.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Like, I do feel like, oh God, they want me to really take something away from everything that they are going to make, which, you know, maybe I will, but that should be my decision.
Yeah, it makes their projects sound like vegetables.
Yeah, and then afterwards you can watch, you know, It's a Royal Knockout or something, which we'll get onto later.
This is, though, pretty major for 6 months after leaving the royal family.
Yeah.
As senior working royals, we know they haven't left the royal family. But I am just surprised that it's come so soon, and it's such a major, like, the multi-year part of it. You know, forget about that 1 year review. We've got a multi-year review at Netflix. We're not coming back.
They're going to spend longer with Netflix than they did as senior working royals.
I do think, though, this is very clearly following the Obamas playbook, so I thought we could look at the template that they set. Barack and Michelle Obama revealed their first slate of programming in April 2019. So that was 11 months after the Netflix deal was first announced. So that gives you a kind of idea of how long we'll be waiting before we might hear what Harry and Meghan are working on. But the Obamas announced 7 projects, and 2 of them have come out already. So the first 2 were American Factory, which won Best Documentary at the Oscars this year, which is very impressive for the first project from their production company, Higher Ground. And then the second one that's come out already is Crip Camp, which is also the front runner for Best Documentary at next year's Oscars. So they've set the bar very high.
And, I mean, we've talked a little bit, not on the podcast, but how it's clever to follow the Obamas because it's clearly like a route that is working, but it's also quite a scary route to follow, because you will always be opening yourself up to comparisons to these like incredibly accomplished people.
Then there are 5 others that haven't come out yet, and they may not come out. The announcement said that, you know, things change all the time in producing, but this was what was announced last year. There is a series based on Michael Lewis's book, The Fifth Risk, which I have read, and I cannot understand how they're going to make that into a series, but I'm very interested to find out. They're doing an adaptation of the New York Times obituary series Overlooked, a biopic of Frederick Douglass, a drama series about women and people of colour in post-World War II New York, and a children's show taking families around the world to tell the story of our food. So that all sounds incredibly Barack and Michelle Obama.
Yeah, and a very impressive like spread of subjects as well.
So far, the New York Times reported that Harry and Meghan have an animated series in development that is focused on inspiring women. So I think that is probably the project that they were pitching this summer to Apple and Disney and NBC Universal and stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The royal reporter Omid Scobie also said that Harry and Meghan are also working on an innovative nature docuseries.
I mean, it is quite a saturated market, the nature docuseries, so I hope that the innovative lives up to its promise. Omid also quoted a source who said that Harry and Meghan are committed to highlighting diverse voices in front of and behind the camera, including in key roles at their new production company. So that's really good and important, because I feel like even just recently we've heard some shady stuff about Netflix in terms of big name producers, but not necessarily making sure that kind of attention is paid to people behind the camera at low levels. So
yeah, I'm so interested in who they're going to hire. I wonder, will it be anybody that we've ever heard of before? Could they get some kind of big names involved as well?
Yeah.
Or will they be very much like up-and-comers and this will be kind of their first?
Well, I mean, we know that Meghan, every sane person, worships Beyonce, and Beyonce, famously is so good at building teams of incredible people to help her realise her vision. So maybe, I hope she's going to follow that route.
I saw a very funny blind gossip item this week, and I'll just note that we obviously understand that this is blind gossip and this is not fact.
Royal rumours, gossip and gowns.
But I just thought it was worth mentioning because it cracked me up. This was on Crazy Days and Nights, and it was: the expatriate royal is actually pitching several spec scripts that he wrote, most of which are comedies, 2 are action movies, all are awful. So I just love this image of Prince Harry desperately trying to ask somebody to read his
comedy script,
his action comedy, his buddy cop comedy movie.
I mean, it does really feed into my kind of underlying feelings here that Harry could possibly be a dead weight in this project, that I feel like while I might not enjoy everything that Meghan would want to make or do, she's very into wellness and mindfulness and everything like that, and I can only take so much of that. I do feel like she is someone with vision of what she wants, and I think that's very important in this kind of environment, whereas I just don't feel like Harry maybe has the same kind of clear idea of who he is and what he wants to do.
Yeah, and I just, a lot of the conversation around this week was about how unqualified they are, and it is true that they are not qualified, and I would say that they need Netflix a lot more than Netflix needs them.
Yeah.
But I am very interested in how it's going to play out between the two of them. And, Meghan obviously has so much experience in film and TV. What does Harry have? I'm curious about, what's he going to bring? Because I know he's made lots of documentaries, but that's very different from producing your own content. So I'm curious about what he's going to bring to the table. And I also thought it was notable that the New York Times asked a Spotify spokesperson about the rumours that Harry and Meghan would be following the Obamas and getting a podcasting deal, and they declined to comment.
It looks like we're safe for the time being then in the royal podcasting sphere.
Oh yeah, I'm sure there'd be a huge amount of overlap between our shit talking and their impactful podcast. But The one thing that stood out to me at the very end of this New York Times piece, they had a clarification that made it very clear that Harry and Meghan do not draw income from the Duchy of Cornwall as they did before they left Britain.
That's very interesting. Does that mean that Charles draws the income and then gives them pocket money? Or I don't know. It's always quite opaque with royals and finances, even not working.
And I just feel like when people say, well, Charles is privately supporting them, he's probably supporting them with money from the Duchy of Cornwall.
Yeah.
Just money from the people. But, listen.
I mean, it definitely sounds like they're not going to need to draw on any funds from the royal family for a while.
I was interested to see The Hollywood Reporter had a poll by YouGov. They pretty rapidly turned this around this week. They asked 2,713 people in the UK, how interested are you, if at all, in watching Harry and Meghan's film and TV content for Netflix? And the results were a bit frosty.
Yeah.
20% of respondents said they were not very interested, while 64% said they were not interested at all.
I mean, that is frosty, but also none of these projects have been officially announced. Like, you have to do quite a lot of digging to find out that there's an animated series and that there's like nature stuff. It's not like you're being presented with a list of titles and an explanation of what these are and then saying, would you be interested in this? So it would seem to me like maybe this is more of a reaction to just general feelings about Harry and Meghan rather than them specifically in TV production.
One of the things YouGov pointed out was that 18 to 24-year-olds are by far the most likely age group to say they would be interested. 23% of them said they were, compared to just 5% of people over the age of 50.
Yeah.
Which makes a lot of sense.
I did find it funny, the Sussex Stan reaction to this. They were very quick to say that no one gives a shit about the UK. And that Harry and Meghan don't need British viewers, which is probably pretty true.
Yeah, I mean, it's still not a good headline to have the week after your deal is announced in The Hollywood Reporter rather than in a British tabloid. But I'm wondering, like, what do you think? Like, the poll results, is this an accurate reflection, do you think, of the kind of British attitude to the deal or Harry and Meghan more generally?
I think that people, there isn't a lot of support for Harry and Meghan, I don't feel, generally, when you look across the media and things in the UK. And I do think that coming off kind of a month of talk about finding freedom and all these kind of inflammatory headlines about different bits of the book and playing up the book and playing down the book, I can imagine people say, like my parents, just being like, I'm not interested in hearing anything more about these people. Oh, so they're going to be making TV shows now? I don't care.
I know. That's what I'm kind of thinking as well. Like, I'm wondering how Harry and Meghan are going to come back from the kind of reputation they have over here. And I know some of you are in America and you're like, I don't give a shit what British people think about Harry and Meghan, but that's where we live, so that's what we're talking about. But I just feel like I've been thinking, like, what if they had stayed on, another year? They would have been in lockdown and they wouldn't have had to deal with all the inter-family shit.
Yeah.
And just the fact that they left right before the whole world shut down, and the only things we've heard about them, and I mean, I know Sussex Stans are following the charity work and stuff that they do, and some of that does, I think, break through and a lot of people hear about it, but the big thing everybody hears about is the Montecito mansion, the book, the details of their spending and things like that make them seem quite ostentatious and out of touch with the average person. So it just feels like this was maybe not the best year in terms of how it has been received by the British public. The Telegraph had a piece this weekend talking about what we could expect from, or what Netflix would expect from Harry and Meghan, and part of it was about how they want the names, because there's so much content on Netflix now that if you see like a big name attached to something, that you'll zero in on that.
Yeah.
So that's what they like about having the Obamas, that, we watched American Factory, which is really excellent. If you haven't seen it, I'd recommend it. But they also did a 10-minute little featurette of the documentary makers talking to Barack and Michelle about the film and about their approach to producing and all that kind of stuff. And I can imagine Netflix are definitely going to want Harry and Meghan to do that kind of thing.
That's true, yeah.
But we just have to mention, guys, that Harry and Meghan are not the first members of the royal family to launch a production company.
No way!
You may have heard us talk on our bonus episode about Prince Edward and Sophie Wessex that Prince Edward famously ran Ardent Productions for 9 years in the 90s and early 2000s.
He not only ran it, but he ran it into the ground.
He launched this production company in 1993. This was before he was a full-time working royal, and there was kind of this conversation around whether he would be the first member of the royal family to have like a proper career outside of the royal family, and that was quite an exciting thing at the time. But then he went on to create a string of what The Guardian described as unwatchable programs, including a series about real tennis.
Oh my god, he's obsessed with real tennis.
And many documentaries about royal residences and royal family members. You might remember the story of one of these. I think it's called The A to Z of Royalty, or Royalty from A to Z or something. And that's the one that involved a camera crew basically stalking Prince William around St. Andrews University very shortly after he started studying there. And Ardent was forced to apologise for that. And apparently Prince Charles called up Edward and said he was an idiot. It's so funny.
There's a piece in The Guardian, it's called It's a Royal Cock-Up by Andy Beckett, and it's really worth reading to get the full story of Ardent and how it became an industry laughingstock.
Yeah.
It has like quotes from loads of other people in the industry calling it a sad joke in the industry.
Pretty brutal. But as we have said previously, the Telegraph reported that Ardent was left with assets of just £40, 27p, when it was liquidated in 2009, according to company documents, despite the fact that investors had pumped close to £2.2 million into the firm. God. So, like, Harry and Meghan can hardly do any worse than this.
Yeah.
But speaking of money, it is not known, probably never will be known, how much Harry and Meghan were paid for their Netflix deal, though an industry expert, a prominent London talent manager called Jonathan Shillett, said it's likely to be a 3 to 7 year deal with a signing on fee of between 50 and 100 million, which could rise to 250 million with performance related bonus payments. Pretty insane.
That is mad.
That is big money.
For people who've never produced anything.
I know, because I was looking at like what other people have earned for their deals, and like it's never been sort of confirmed, but it was reported that Netflix paid Shonda Rhimes $150 million for a 5-year deal, and that's like Shonda Rhimes, like the god of
she
TV.
like invented TV as we know it.
So yeah, I'm just pretty amazed by this.
But of course the palace had something to say about this. A palace source told the Mirror that the royal family will be casting a critical eye over the Netflix deal. It goes without saying any deals they're making will be scrutinised by the royal household. Under the terms of their deal to forgo their royal duties, they agreed any commercial deals would be subject to discussion. Both the royal family and senior courtiers will be aware of how this looks to the public, especially as the couple have not yet paid back the £2.4 million they promised to refund the taxpayer for Frogmore Cottage, which will be their UK base.
Thanks for such a comprehensive quote, Palace Insider. You gave us all the details there.
And thanks for bringing up the £2.4 million again.
This seems to me like a very obvious attempt to keep pushing this narrative that the royals still have some or any control over Harry and Meghan, because it just, like, it's pathetic. This doesn't make any sense. Like, this deal has been made. So if they are kept on this tight little leash by the Queen, then we can assume it has already been scrutinised and approved by the time it was fucking signed.
Yeah, I mean, to me, this statement makes them sound so pathetic because they use the words like scrutinised. And that scrutinise doesn't mean, like, I could scrutinise anything. It doesn't mean I have any power over it. It doesn't mean I can stop it or change it in any way. Everything would be up for discussion. But, like you said, the deal's been done. So regardless of what this discussion is, what's the point?
And also, their exit deal from the royal family has been done.
Yeah.
And when the Queen decided they couldn't do the part-time deal, she cut off any say that she has, that anybody in the palace has on what Harry and Meghan do. It's ridiculous. And it seems to me like an excuse just to remind everyone, like you said, of this £2.4 million, which fucking blows my head off, because nobody's asking fucking Prince Andrew to get the fuck out of Royal Lodge, given all the mortification he's brought to this family. I just don't know what people actually want Harry and Meghan to do. Like, do they want them to live in poverty? Do they want them to be miserable? Like, how can they pay back? But how can they pay back the money for the Frogmore renovations without working to make the money to pay back the Frogmore renovations? It just doesn't make sense to me. And I just wish Harry and Meghan would do a photo with a fucking massive check that says £2.4 million for Frogmore, you freaks, and just send it back and have a fucking picture that we can all point to every time Piers Morgan or any fucker has anything to say about these fucking renovations. It just blows my
I know. Like, I am in total agreement with that. Hopefully now with this deal they can just put an end to all of that. So boring.
I know. I just really would love if they could pay this Frogmore bill off ASAP and we can never hear about it again, please.
Yeah. But to dial our blood pressure down a bit for a sec, this week we did also see the 23rd anniversary of Princess Diana's death. So Harry and Meghan were honouring her memory in a very moving way. I thought this was lovely. They went for a visit to Preschool Learning Centre in LA.
According to People magazine, Preschool Learning Centre is a programme of the Assistance League of Los Angeles, which aims to improve the lives of impoverished children in the community through philanthropy, dedicated service and compassionate programmes. And Harry and Meghan have previously volunteered at the Preschool Learning Centre, which is close to where Meghan attended school. But on last week's visit, they planted flowers and vegetables with the kids there, and Harry brought along his own seeds of his mother's favourite flower, Forget-Me-Nots.
That was a really beautiful thing, I thought.
Yeah, it was so sweet, and just these images were gorgeous. They were taken by Matt Sales, the same photographer who took the pictures of Meghan and Gloria Steinem, and just these pictures of Harry and Meghan in very casual clothes and playing with the kids and getting their hands dirty. It's like exactly the kind of work that Diana loved doing, and it was such a nice tribute to her, and it was very touching, very emotional. I know a lot of people loved seeing this kind of thing, and you know, especially for people who feel like Harry wanted to protect Meghan in a way he felt like he couldn't protect his mother, that all of this kind of comes together and makes for a very powerful image.
Yeah, I thought as well, for them, for Harry in particular, it must be a nice way to spend that day, which must be a horrible or very difficult day. But, you know, when you're amongst children, I don't spend a lot of time with children, but I imagine like you're focusing on them and things are happening and they don't really care that much that you might be sad. Like, there's a lot of distraction, and to be able to do this thing which both honours Diana and also probably helps him kind of get through the day in a more positive way, I thought was great.
I also loved that they used these like elephant watering cans that then sold out. That is like the funniest example of the Meghan effect. I think.
Yeah.
Harry and Meghan also spent some time reading books to the kids, including Jack and the Beanstalk and some other books about gardening, vegetables and planting. What are these books about planting for children? Oh yeah, the one other thing about them that I saw was that Meghan is suing the paparazzi agency who took the pictures of her and Archie on that walk in Vancouver Island back in January, which I found quite confusing because the pictures were taken in Canada, the photo agency is American, but Meghan is taking the case in London because they were bought by British media.
Okay.
But anyway, it's just another example of how they're really going hard on paparazzi. I don't know how successful she'll be, but her lawyer cited some case that J.K. Rowling won in 2008.
I guess their plan seems to be to just make it not worth the bother of taking pictures of them. Like, that you'll have to go to court down the line, so even if you get a few sales out of it up front. God. How do they have the time?
But back in the UK, last weekend, we heard that the Cambridges visited the Queen and Prince Philip at Balmoral, and Will and Kate took Prince George out for a shooting party on Saturday.
And it's not even his first time watching a grouse shoot, because Kate apparently took him during a visit to Balmoral in 2018.
So he would have been like 5 then.
He's an old hand at this.
Be very, very quiet. I'm hunting rabbits.
The Mail pointed out that Prince William and Harry both hunted and shot from a young age, and they were so enthusiastic about it that Diana had jokingly called them her killer whales.
I mean, it's cute, but also, like, honestly, anything to do with hunting, especially hunting on posh people, makes my skin crawl.
And, you know, it's happened before. I think it's going to keep happening every time they do hunt, but critics have accused Will of hypocrisy for privately shooting while publicly supporting conservation efforts. The Mail said that officials at Kensington Palace have defended Will's participation in the hunts by arguing that legal and well-managed private hunting and shooting is very different from the illegal wildlife trade, which is what Will has been trying to combat. I do think, though, they're clearly aware that it's not a good look, because this Mail report also pointed out that the Queen has taken steps in recent years to prevent the royals from being photographed doing blood sports. So clearly they know it's not something that's going to go down that well with the public, and you wonder how long this is going to continue.
Yeah, it's a bit mad. I'm just so surprised that the Queen has experience in covering things up. God, it's going to take me a while to recover from that.
Were you surprised, though, that they brought George, age 7?
I mean, I guess not, in a way, because if these adults all want to meet up and shoot things, what do you do with your kids at that point? I mean...
Well, Charlotte and Louis stayed back at the house.
That's true. They wanted him to see the death.
They got to start him early. When she wasn't busy hunting, though, Kate took some time to write a little piece for the Sunday Times about the Hold Still photography exhibition she's been working on with the National Portrait Gallery.
So this is the virtual exhibition of 100 images recording people's experiences of life in lockdown. Kate was one of a few judges, and she writes that there were more than 31,000 entries. Every submission told a unique story, she said, from moments of joy, love and community spirit to deep sadness, pain, isolation and loss. It's during times such as these we realise more than ever the significance of human connection, she said as she fired a round into the air.
Kensington Palace also posted a very, very blurry video of Kate and the other judges zooming on Instagram. And I thought this was notable for 2 reasons. You know, mainly because of how poor the quality of this video was. And like...
Yeah, terrible.
We gotta retire this iPhone 3 that Kate loves so much. But also because of the insight it gave us into her Anmer Hall decor, this never before seen room, or never before seen by us.
Yeah, so we got these cream walls with a large lamp, a pink and white floral sofa, a gold framed mirror, and absolutely tons of decorative hand-painted plates on the wall. Like, too many, honestly. I've seen people put 1 or 2 up, and I think that's fine. But this was so many that I felt stressed looking at it. I thought one of these is going to fall down, especially when they've trained their child in the game of Crockery Smash. I think we said that in our maybe first or second episode ever, that the Middleton grandparents love taking George out to smash plates.
I did wonder, though, are these the works of the Cambridge kids from Mabel's paint pot that we talked about last week?
I think Kate would have had to have a very controlling hand in the decoration if they are.
But maybe if she's worried about them being smashed, she just sticks up Louis's crappy old plate.
Yeah, or maybe Louis's crappy old plate, as you put it, is in the vaults at Buckingham Palace, immortalised forever.
I did think Kate's dress from Zara was pretty horrible. It had these like saggy sleeves that were minging, but the green of it complemented the rest of the room very nicely. And just in case you were wondering, the full exhibition, the Hold Still exhibition, will go live on the National Portrait Gallery website on the 14th of September.
Not much longer to wait. But in other Will news, his former private secretary, Simon Case, has been picked to lead the British Civil Service.
This job is always referred to as the UK's top civil servant, which I find like such a funny title.
America's Next Top Model.
Britain's top person.
One of our top people. Our top person.
A royal source told The Telegraph that Simon Case, who worked with Will for 2 years, would likely remain as an unofficial advisor to the prince, and that Will was very sad to see him go, but realised he needed to give him up for the sake of the country. Will the martyr.
He's so good to us.
Much has been made of Simon Case's instrumental role in elevating William's image as a statesman, though Camilla Tominey pointed out in The Spectator that it is notable that on Case's watch, William and Kate were revealed to have flown by budget airline to Balmoral after Harry and Meghan had snubbed the Queen to fly by private jet to Elton John's mansion in Nice. She also wrote in The Telegraph that it was Simon Case who had engineered those 4 generations of royalty photo ops that Harry reportedly felt pushed out by. So I'm just wondering, like, what is it about those 2 examples that suggest this is, as she puts it, the man to rescue the government's erratic handling of the coronavirus crisis?
I mean, if he wanted to make Harry and Meghan feel uncomfortable and leave, he succeeded. So maybe he really is a man who can get things done.
If by things you mean petty pettiness.
I don't think coronavirus really cares about its, like, budget flights and things.
Anyway, it's just like as if we needed another example of how the royals are political.
Yeah, because we were talking last week about a listener who was pointing out to us that the president in the US is both ceremonial and political head of state, and in the UK we divide those roles. But yeah, this is an example of how there's like a lot of back and forth between the political and the ceremonial, and it's not always as clear-cut as they would perhaps like us to believe. But there was another visitor to Balmoral that we haven't mentioned.
The Sun reports that Prince Andrew visited the Queen for crisis talks about his Jeffrey Epstein scandal.
So an insider apparently has said, the Queen and Andrew will have lots to discuss. So much has come out over the summer. The Queen wants to be kept informed and she will not be back at Windsor until early October.
So much has come out over the summer. It's so funny.
Yeah.
It's like, have you seen Tenet? What do you think of Chromatica? But he hasn't seen her since July, which I presume was for Princess Beatrice's wedding, and they presumably didn't have all that much time to talk about Ghislaine Maxwell, given the Queen fucked off after just 45 minutes to go hang out with Captain Tom. But I'm interested that this was an exclusive in The Sun and that this conversation keeps happening.
Yeah. We didn't really get like any details, but I just always like when you get Andrew and crisis in a headline.
Oh, yeah. Also, we posted about this on Instagram last week, the week before, I can't remember, but in case you don't follow us there,
Which you should.
at Airhead Spot, there was a protest outside Buckingham Palace a couple of weeks ago, and people had signs like, Prince Andrew, we just want to talk, and they were shouting like, pedo
Yeah.
through the gates of Buckingham Palace, and we received a lot of messages about this. And just in case you hadn't seen already, this was ostensibly a Save the Children protest, but really it was a QAnon rally masquerading as an anti-trafficking protest.
Yeah, so we joined the Facebook group for the organisers behind the protest, Freedom for the Children UK, and they are all QAnon believers, or freaks, as we found out. And there's like loads of posts about the rally and posters talking about where we go one, we go all, which is a big hashtag that they use, as well as Pizzagate, adrenochrome, like all of the keywords that Q believers use.
If you do want to hear any more about this, the podcast QAnon Anonymous did a very interesting episode about these rallies. They were all over the world. You probably may have seen that they were in America and stuff as well. But the podcast UK correspondent Annie went to the London protest, and she like talked to a bunch of people there, and they talked about it a lot in the podcast. It starts around an hour and 9 minutes into this episode, but you know, it's worth listening to the whole thing. But I saw a lot of royal fan pages sharing stuff about this, and obviously we do all want Prince Andrew to talk to the FBI, and we do believe he has a lot of questions to answer. I don't like the idea of that being a kind of gateway drug into QAnon, so I would just say, like, be careful and be vigilant about this kind of stuff, because it's very dangerous.
But anyway, let's get back to the royals, because I think that the Queen should have maybe taken a break from admiring all the dead grouse and chatting with Andrew and caught up on her bloody homework.
Yeah, the Telegraph reported this week that thousands of elderly couples could miss out on messages from the Queen in time for their 60th, 70th or 75th wedding anniversaries. Because in case you didn't know already, that if you are going to have one of these wedding anniversaries, you can apply to receive a message from the Queen to celebrate it, much like she famously sends people a message on their 100th birthday, but those aren't going to be affected.
She's got her priorities.
Buckingham Palace has apologised this week for severe delays.
They blame coronavirus for the delay. Apparently no one thought to include a pen in the Queen's quarantine bubble.
What is the Queen doing that she can't sign a bunch of innocuous little cards?
I know.
It's so strange to me. We talked last week about how the Queen has done so little work in lockdown, and we're meant to think that she's the one who's holding the country together in the face of the coronavirus crisis and a recession. But she can't even do this most basic little job of signing her own damn name
on these letters. She doesn't deserve to be on the stamps.
And she would want to be issuing those apologies, because the people who are celebrating those anniversaries are her core demo.
Yeah, definitely.
If you upset the people in their 80s and 90s, could be in big trouble if you get a revolt from that demographic.
Absolutely.
Let us talk about our quote of the week, because I found such a good one that I'm very excited to share. This came after the death of Eric Murillo, a DJ, and in a tribute to him, the party organizer in Ibiza, Tony Truman is his name, shared this story on Instagram.
12 or so years ago, Prince William came to Ibiza, and I had the pleasure to help arrange his party plans while on the island with Kate and their entourage. The next day, I get a call from HRH William, like you casually do, and Will says, "Thank you, Tony. I was not a fan of house music until last night, and your friend Eric was amazing. Now I love it." I was blown away not just by Will's casually calling me, but that Eric had got the royal R&B loving posse into house music. William might be the prince, but that night Eric was the king of the party.
This whole image of Will and Kate,
the R&B loving posse.
Oh my god, what is their R&B they like? I have never heard that they liked R&B.
No, I only heard that he liked Eminem and Coldplay.
And Ellie Goulding.
Yeah.
Their favourite. But what I would give to see footage of Kate and Will in a club in Ibiza. I want to see their moves.
Yeah.
Did he go home and immediately set up a SoundCloud?
Did he ask Harry to send him some recommendations?
Harry is a huge house music nut, as we all know. Yeah. Surely he had some sick playlists he could share with his family members.
God, do we now need to find Will's SoundCloud?
Oh my god. Okay, we'll keep you posted. If any of you have come across it, by the way, please share it with us.
What about Fit for a Queen, though?
Well, I do think we should talk a little bit about what Meghan wore. I know we mostly talked about Harry on their visit to the Preschool Learning Centre, but Meghan's outfit was read by a lot of people as a sort of nod to Diana. She wore double denim.
Yeah.
She had a chambray shirt from J. Crew, I believe, with a pair of dark denim skinny jeans, and then her Rothy's flats that she wears a lot. And, double denim is a bit of a divisive trend, but it's so casual.
Yeah.
And Diana was a fan. So I think in a way it's like a further step away from that royal duchess dressing that we had come accustomed to seeing Meghan in, towards this very laid back California girl type style that she has embraced since they moved to LA.
But like the Diana link does kind of keep it in this not royal dressing, I think. And I liked how she updated it for the kind of current trend. She wore a kind of light denim shirt and then the dark denim trousers. Diana very much wore the same shade of denim when she did double denim in the pictures that I was looking at.
Like stonewash or acid wash or something.
Yeah.
Very of its time.
Yeah, so it was nice.
Very not Meghan.
yeah. But it was a nice update, and it made it more of like an homage than a cosplay, which so many Diana tribute outfits can very easily become.
Yeah, I would have liked to see her wearing another kind of fashion-y mask.
Yeah.
The disposable mask was a bit odd, I thought, because of the reaction to the last time she wore a mask. It would be great to see her do that again with another little company.
And I hope she cut the elastic straps off when she got rid of it, because otherwise it could get wrapped around a bird's legs, which is very sad.
Thanks for the PSA, Tom. So, who do you think should be first in line this week?
I think Harry, because I thought those photos of him from the Preschool Learning Centre were really great, and I thought it was, like I said earlier, it was a lovely way to remember his mum and kind of get through the day as well.
I know, and I feel like a lot of the time when we talk about Harry remembering his mother, it's in those very aggressive lawsuits and taking on the paparazzi and taking on the media and stuff like that, which, you know, obviously stems from his feelings about his mother's death and his loss and things like that. But this was like a nice, small, tender moment that was very affecting. And I also thought it was really strong PR move from Harry and Meghan, because, you know, he brought the seeds himself and that they hired the photographer again. So they were thinking about all those things, obviously, and it brought so much attention to this initiative that it just worked out beautifully.
Yeah, it makes me think that they're kind of getting back on track, because I remember like being very pro the moves they were making when they had a social media account. At one point they just seemed to be hitting all the right notes, and then I feel like they kind of, for me, lost their way a bit, and this seems like they're kind of getting back on top of things.
Yeah.
It was such a good move, I think, finding a photographer that they like working with.
Yeah, and he does lovely work for them.
Yeah.
So next week is back to school week here in the UK, and we talked before about how we think that means Prince George and Princess Charlotte will be going back to school. So I do think it's possible we're going to get a back to school photo. Yeah. Because people just went absolutely crazy for those first day of school pics with the four of them when Charlotte started school. So I feel like this would be a great opportunity to have an image like that would encourage other families to send their kids back to school. Not that I'm saying they should, but that's what the government wants people to do. So yeah, that's where the royals are taking their messaging from.
And schools so far, I was reading like in Scotland, schools are already open and they've been like the lowest attendance, and a lot of the people absent it was COVID related and things. So I think that they could make a big difference to that. I don't necessarily believe that kids should be going back, but you know.
Maybe we'll see that this week. We hope you'll come back and join us to hear what else the royals get up to. We're also going to be doing a book club episode on the sequel to American Royals, Majesty, in 2 weeks' time. Yeah. So that is on the 20th of September. So I know a lot of you have read it already. We're still catching up. So we hope you will listen to that as well. You can find us on Instagram and Twitter at airheadspod, and on Facebook at airheads, or you can send us an email, airheadspod@gmail.com.
And if you like this episode, you can leave us a 5-star review and let us know your thoughts. And we want to say thank you to all the lovely reviews we got over the last week. It was really, really nice to get so many lovely messages as well from people.
Have a great week. Thank you so much for listening.
Bye.
We're still rolling? This is fantastic.